It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right, awesome. Welcome to another Myth of the Week. And we will tell you at the end if this one is busted or confirmed. The myth is basically that you should always pre-twist prior to, using the wire net. And this one has been argued in all the groups. I think that's why I got a lot of attention on it, because it's been argued on all the groups for a long time. And some people think that it's actually a bad thing to pre-twist them with your linemen's. You have to really use your discretion. I think that's why I kind of do it loosely, because if you get too tight of a twist in there, you could damage that conductor. Then when you go to put the wire nut on, you could break those conductors and then have even worse connection than what you would with just the wire nut. I believe that as long as you're following the manufacturer listed and labeling on that equipment and you're installing it correctly, those wires shouldn't be popping out. A lot of people in the comments were saying that they always have wires pop out if you don't pre-twist. I actually disagree with that. I think that if that's the case, then that wire nut was installed incorrectly. And the thing is, we've had a lot of people argue with Wagos. We might have to do one on the Wago argument. I have no problem with Wagos. I feel the Wago is basically exactly the same as a wire net. But here Juan says that his problem with twisting the wires with the wire net itself is that you can over tighten and the risk of loosening the wire spring inside the wire net, which I agree with. And that's the thing too, that like that's could be maybe a problem that I have when I just give it that extra little thing, that extra little nudge with my linemen's at the end, But I just want to kind of make sure I have that secure connection. I just want to make sure that, like when you look at the wires in this picture, the conductor's stripped back per manufacturer spec. So, in theory, that wire nut is supposed to twist those wires together correctly without causing any kind of damage to the conductors or any loose connections. So if you're installing these right, you shouldn't be required to pre-twist, even though most of us do,
Right.
and and yeah, and I agree with you, Andrew. We went through it over the years. There's riots over a lot of these myths, and that's why I've been adding them to the myths of the week, and I've been adding them and talking. And like I say, in all actuality, in my opinion, I think it's a good idea to pre-twist prior to installing the wire net. I think it just helps ensure that all your insulations are lined up, because if you go in this picture and you go and put that wire nut in and one of those wires slips down, then you're going to have open either ungrounded conductor or open grounded conductor somewhere in the circuit, and you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah, when I look at it, I just look at the question mainly where it says per the current edition of the National Electrical Code, and that would be a hell no. But I guess if you were going to apply something in the code, I guess you'd look at 110.3B, and that'd be the listing and labeling of the wire nuts itself. So
yeah, well, you have to understand that the reason I do that is because everyone says, "Oh, that's new code." Everyone always says that. It's like one of the most common comments that I see, where they're just like, "New code says that," and they don't even know the old code. So how do you know it's a new code?
Yeah, new code does not. But what I did was some example information for the wire nuts, and these were some ideal wire nuts. And as I was looking at these different tire wire nuts that they were using, there were three sizes that are in stock, and there's a different wire range capacity for the amount of wires that could be installed. And the other thing that I found interesting is that they do it in a hexagonal shape, and this is put in there. So if you have just a standard tight nut driver, you can take that nut driver and actually tighten it up a little bit more. But the other thing that they had in there, it says no pre-twisting required. Okay.
Right.
And I know some will say, "Oh, I don't agree with that." But you know, the the thing is they basically consider their wire nuts to be able to twist those wires together and make a firm connection. But you can't put too many wires. That's why they got different sizes to choose from.
So
But
Andrew wants to get your opinion, yes or no, pre-twist or use the wire net.
well, my opinion on this would be if I have solids, I always started a pre-twist on it, and then I'd get it going. Then I'd use the wire nut to do the rest of it. If it was stranded, I didn't pre-twist. So
I agree.
it depended on what I was using and how I wanted it to be used. And I just
Right.
felt more comfortable if I had solid, I needed to start a twist on that because the reason I say that is because when you get those in there, they're very solid is the word. Oh, that's real funny. Did you see that? Oh, y'all
Yeah.
don't see it. Dad turned the light off and laughed at me. Asshole. He turned around and laughed. He wants to go eat later, so I told him I would. But
Yeah,
oh, he
Andrew
agrees
seems
with
to
what I'm
agree.
saying. Yeah. But it's what people feel comfortable with because but back when I was doing it, the old school guys they used to say you pre-twist everything, and then I do the stranded, and of course, like I said, start flaring, and if you're trying to put four conductors, and I finally just sort of figured out I'd get them set up there even, and I just put it on there, screw it. I never had a problem. And it felt like to me, once you put the stranded in there, you could actually start to feel the wires twisting together. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you get the solid, it didn't quite feel the same as if you were using stranded because it wasn't as pliable. So that's why I went ahead and I would take and get it started and then finish it off, and you would feel the wires start to catch. But if you
Right.
say you take three or four of those and you start twisting, until it really starts grabbing, you're not going to feel those wires twisting together. It's
True.
like it's trying to catch, and that's
Right.
why I say you got to look at it from what UL says and what you feel comfortable with. But if you ask me, I'm going to tell you right now, solid I did pre-twist, stranded I didn't worry about. And
Yeah.
but if you look at the UL listing and the CSA certification on this, it says no pre-twisting required. And the other important part about this is they're what? Reusable.
Reusable. I
That's
like
right.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would have to disagree with you, Juan. There's actually countries in the world that don't even use wire nuts at all. They only use strictly Wagos. So, I mean, I agree with you it being a can of worms. But I just think that I think Wagos are fine. I think they're listed for what they're designed for, and like I say, I have pictures and posts where I hooked up 480-volt garage doors with Wagos, and they're still in there burning today. I mean, years and years and years later, and
Mhm.
they've never had a problem. So, they haven't. I haven't heard about any service calls on my 480-volt garage door openers. But it was just one of those things that I did as a thing to just show that Wagos are fine. There's really nothing wrong with them. Yeah, manufacturer instructions, absolutely. That's the key right there. And that is what busts the myth. You do not
Yeah,
have to pre-twist as
you
long
don't.
as you follow the list and label